This episode is brought to you by Forethought. Most companies build their customer experience in pieces. Sales in one system, support in another, and onboarding somewhere else. Forethought brings it all together. Forethought is an AI system made up of advanced agents that handle sales, onboarding, support, and retention. Each team manages its own agents. The customer sees one unified experience. Forethought powers over 1 billion interactions every month for brands like Scale AI, Cohere, Airtable, and Upwork. Learn more at forethought.ai.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Cerebral Valley podcast on the Newcomer newsletter. We're getting ready for the Cerebral Valley AI Summit in London on June 25th. Thrilled to be back with Max Child.
Hello, glad to be back.
And James Wilsterman.
Hey Eric, good to see you.
We are talking about Max and James's favorite topic, voice and the future of video, though I guess you guys are getting in both.
You got to get the branding right. It's voice AI. Okay, now voice AI and then video AI.
I tweeted at you. I was like, I forget what we were fighting about, but I was like, I noticed you added the AI to the company.
Yes, that's correct. We're pioneers in the field of voice AI, and I've added myself to the Wikipedia. All right.
We're in the Hayes Valley Wikipedia. Do you know that?
I have seen this, yes. Okay. Well,
one of our proudest accomplishments. Clearly, VO3 is crazy. Like, video creation has gone insane. We want to cover a couple things with this podcast. Where we think video is going, and then we're going to review some videos. We just had a lot of technical difficulties trying to introduce an AI video co-host. It seems like the problem was that fundamentally ChatGPT is down because they introduced new models, which is honestly the most disappointing failure mode for having a AI video co-host, since just ChatGPT working, it feels like it should be the minimum.
What are they spending the money on? I don't know. Apparently not server uptime. This has happened to us pretty often, by the way. We run a lot of our games on GPT APIs, and it's every 100 days or so you get nailed by this.
They just dropped the prices, right? 80% on O3 or something. Does that affect you guys?
O3 is 5 times cheaper. I don't think we run any of our games on O3 right now, but we do run our games on the real-time voice API, which is, I think, what we're here to talk about today. The Samantha Her model, as we called it a year ago before Scarlett Johansson sued OpenAI.
All right. So a direct question. Where do you think video is in 5 years? We love predictions on this podcast. And I think specifically I want you to get to, do you think TikTok or movie studios loom larger in this world? And do you think AI is intertwined with human actors, or do you think we're pure AI movies?
There's a lot of layered questions there. I think I would first say that anyone who's seen the sort of viral Google VO3 model output, on Twitter, which has been very popular over the last week or two, there's a new viral sort of version of this VO content where it's a day in the life of a Star Wars stormtrooper, and they're making little joke vlogs of how they've crashed on Tatooine and that kind of thing. And, it looks, I think, as good or better than many scenes in certainly the television versions of the Star Wars universe. I guess you could argue maybe the film looks slightly better if you're on a 70-foot screen in a theater. But, it's close enough, in my opinion, to sort of cut to the chase where you're like, this could be a part of certainly like a Star Wars miniseries or something like this. And so it seems hard to believe that YouTube/TikTok isn't going to take over this world. I don't know how much of this type of content you'll see on the movie theater screen, but I think what's more interesting is given that you now have kind of on-demand video that's of the quality of, Hollywood, does everyone get a personalized TikTok feed of their own AI generated videos that are perfectly targeted at them and perfectly dispensed like their little piece of candy that they love?
Are you betting that or not? Yeah. I feel like that's one of the key forks here.
Yes,
you're betting on long tail custom video.
I am betting on ultra long tail. I am betting on the barbell curve or the U curve, right? Where on one end we'll have monoculture. We'll still probably have the Taylor Swifts and the sort of ultra popular films, Barbie, Oppenheimer, or whatever. And then most content consumption will be super long tail, ultra personalized. Everyone gets their own TikTok feed that's AI generated exactly for them. I think everything in the middle is going to have a lot of trouble, like our podcast, until we put our co-host on. Yeah, we're probably in the middle right now, so we need to get our AI co-host taking over.
All right, James, what's your prediction here?
Well, I think that maybe podcasts will be safe for a while. I think it seems hard to imagine that we will have a big market for people listening to podcasts purely hosted by AIs for a long time.
Because the reasoning through line isn't there, or just because they're just going to veer off?
Yeah, I guess I think people mainly listen for the hosts and the sort of personalities of the hosts and the relation to the real world.
You're like, we're so charming. How could an AI
I don't know.
be so charming as us?
If we're talking 5 years, I mean, I guess anything's possible.
5 years, anything's possible. The Silicon Valley point of view. Yeah.
I mean, I just think that podcasts in general are just not that big of a business. I mean, it's especially if we get self-driving cars, I don't think people are going to listen to that many podcasts in general. I mean, I think you already see eating podcasts. Yeah.
Well,
I'm saying
we're a video podcast. I don't think there's this hard line between
okay, well, I guess I'm saying the concept of a talk show or whatever, right? A long form talk show, which is sort of what James is talking about. I guess I really disagree. I think it will totally get eaten by AI generated content. I listen to the Bill Simmons podcast. I feel like the personal relationship I have with Bill Simmons is of course meaningful because I like that podcast more than other podcasts. But I totally believe there's an AI out there that could create a better show that I would like more, and then I wouldn't care if it was a human or not. There's nothing quintessentially human about the Bill Simmons podcast that's keeping me around, I guess. Maybe I'm underestimating Bill Simmons' abilities. It's possible.
Would you predict that the amount of content generated by AI podcasts makes it uncommon to ever listen to a human generated podcast in 5 years? That's what your sort of prediction is, or would you go that far?
More airtime for human podcasts or AI podcasts in 5 years? I say human.
I'll say AI if we're including all video, talk shows or whatever.
James, you're on the hardcore human side, right?
Sure. My prediction is based on podcast players as they are today, whether that's YouTube or I'll count YouTube.
Just coming with some kind of edge case here.
I think
in Apple Podcasts and Overcast,
I'm going human
everything
podcast.
will be human. All right.
I do believe Max is on the right track here when we're thinking about short form video, when we're thinking of, whether even Hollywood video will be mostly AI generated, anything fictional where you're already looking for kind of a fantasy type experience or world, then obviously AI is just a faster path to generate that. You can still have human written scripts involved. I mean, sure, that will be AI impacted as well. But yeah, I think that would be where I would see this changing faster.
All right, Eric, what's your thoughts on this podcast situation?
I think what video hasn't had is fast iteration. And so I think there are lots of things that are going to be interesting about AI video, but on the sort of long tail of videos, but even popular videos, you get on TikTok, AI generates a short video, sees how it's doing, and then sort of dedicates itself to videos that are getting heat. I think this sort of just A/B testing a video and seeing, what's working, what's interesting. I think that's going to be a path for just novel video creation and is going to be really powerful. So to me, I think TikTok and YouTube are much more important than movie studios for video 5 years from now. I also think the movie business, it's going to be IP wars. It's Studio Ghibli is the top thing on OpenAI. I just think that if you actually try to make a movie that went to theaters about it, you'd have a lawsuit. And I think the movie studios with the actual IP have all these employees that are really hostile to using AI to generate their IP. So I think largely YouTube, TikTok, and this sort of user-generated type stuff is just going to be AI generated. And so we're going to see a lot of the competition come there.
Yeah, that sort of gets into a question I have about the future, which is, given that the training data sets of all of these AI is sort of where we are today or where we are up through 2020, and also given that the only sort of rallying points for monoculture are sort of nostalgia and IP, to your point.
Right.
Are we sort of in the end times for new content in some ways where forever going forward, just the content universe of the 2020s will extend permanently into the future because it'll be so deeply embedded in the training data of the models that sort of became AGI or whatever you want to call it, that the 1990s and 2000s will be like weirdly important for the next 200 years
Right. Well,
because
there was already this
it's like the
concern
last
pre-AI,
original content on the internet.
Pre-AI that the internet had killed sort of generations, or that it was so self-aware that you didn't have this like, we all dress this way until we all,
Yeah.
And so that banding was already sort of on the way out.
We see with new technologies does open up the opportunity for new creative IP, right? I mean, Mr. Beast didn't exist before YouTube, and
Mr. Beast, the ultimate derivative. He's doing the Hunger Games. Like, he's making
Mr.
chocolate
Beast
bars.
Is, I'm kind of with Eric here. I think Mr. Beast is going to not really last the test of time. But
sure, but I think like obviously that era of the internet and YouTube like created new stars that wouldn't have existed without the internet, right? So I guess I could imagine something similar happening with AI, where there's new types of musicians, right, that are fully invested in AI. There's new types of filmmakers and directors that are like go 100% in on AI. Maybe new podcasts.
I mean, right now we're constrained in a couple ways. Like one, VO3, it's like 8 seconds at a time. So people and humans end up having to do a lot of the work because they're connecting all these different sequences if they want to do it. So we're not even really seeing true like AI creation, right, at scale. And then the other thing, Sam Altman just wrote a new blog post, and I think he predicted that innovation or novelty was like an upcoming feature of AI. And so like in our 5-year window, I have a lot of optimism that novelty could be coming. I think it's the big question. And obviously if there's novelty, then there's new IP. And then we're like, wow, they came up with the new Disney. Like, this is perfect. You came up with Pokemon in 20 seconds. Like, that would then blow us up. Then we're like, every movie, it's like we get high on it. I mean, we could even have this period where it's like we're so inundated with it, and then we sort of pull back and we're like, oh, we're fatigued of the AI movies.
That starts to ask the question of like, does it become a monoculture, or is super hyper targeted and everyone has a different Pokemon that they're watching, right?
At the end of the day, I know this makes me an old, but like, I watch TikTok. My wife watches TikTok. We're lying in bed. We think we're so unique. The TikTok comes up and it's like, oh, it understands me so well. Then she gets the same one. Like, I think sometimes the super niche TikToks are like, actually, no, there's a lot of common humanity. Like, we're all interested in the same things. Like, I think some of the long tail stuff is overrated. Obviously, we have hobbies, and it's like, chess or League of Legends or whatever. So I'm not denying that, but I think there's always going to be this urge for a shared culture.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think the ultimate question is how many different human interests really are there, and like especially ones with any sort of density, like more than 1,000 people share that interest, or more than 10,000 people share that interest, and there's probably not that many, maybe on the order of hundreds or thousands. So ultimately there might be just a convergence around that, and maybe the tail isn't that long. But I do think like Andre Karpathy, who made like the original vibe coding tweet, had an interesting tweet this week about VO3, where he said this will be the first time in history that video is what he called like directly optimizable, meaning like you can just run like millions and millions of iterations on the same video, and keep tweaking it for almost no cost. Whereas historically, tweaking video has been sort of prohibitively expensive to do more than a few variations or more than a few kind of iterations and tests. And so video is going to become a lot more like, text or something like that, where you can iterate and test it so rapidly that you can converge on sort of the like optimal solution for a given problem, even if like the optimal solution is just like a very particular version of a meme or whatever. And so it'll be interesting to see what those shared pieces of content look like in the future, and what the sort of hyper optimized version of something that was merely popular when we were
He's saying it's cheaper.
Not yet.
But like there's going to be a lot of costs. Like I do think another reason to be bearish on hyper individualized video in the next 5 years is just everybody's like, oh, wave away costs. Actually, it's like, make one expensive AI video for everybody in the beginning, and then once we get costs down,
yeah,
can cater
for sure.
towards people.
I do think 5 years is such a long time in this AI era that we live through, though, that it's really hard to predict where costs end up for anything. I mean, like we just said, OpenAI reduced costs for O3 today, 80% down from what it was yesterday. So I think things just changed dramatically.
I think there will be a successful Pixar-style AI company. Like, I think if we look at Midjourney, part of why Midjourney has been successful is it did sort of, it's like, okay, we like this design aesthetic. They're sort of playing kingmaker on certain looks to make it work. And so I think there will be sort of like AI studios basically trying to make movies.
Given that your wife is in the filmmaking industry,
Right.
like what is your sense on, is Hollywood going to adopt these tools like for, special effects or for like certain shots or to like edit certain things? Like how much blowback is there against it versus how much excitement?
My
excitement
wife
there
is in documentary. I think she's a little more open to it given what I do. But certainly in those circles, you can feel like they're way, go to their parties, they're way more hostile to AI than would be unfathomable to us. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of hostility in Hollywood. I mean, Tom Dotan has been doing some reporting for Newcomer, and I don't know, my sense from his stories is that it's like Hollywood secretly, the execs are going to use it, and it's going to happen, and there will be this sort of clash with the rank and file. I mean, documentary, given it's about the real world, has its own reasons to be sort of not as AI generated, but it'll continue to create sort of this blur between real and fiction.
And I mean, we kind of talked about this earlier, but like, I already think a lot of this AI video looks more real than like an effects shot in a Marvel movie. And I think Hollywood obviously moved in the direction from practical effects in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to 100% CGI for the most popular movies today. And I just think that it's sort of inconceivable that you wouldn't take this technology that lets you create at least like effects shots for like 1/1000th as much money, like 100,000th as much money, and like probably looks better already in 2025.
But it's still hard to control the camera, right? Like
there are people working on that for sure.
We're really close, I guess.
I have a question. I just think that we're dancing around that we haven't gotten to, which is just like, we're predicting that all this video is going to be generated with AI. We're predicting that Hollywood studios will adopt it for special effects. I'm still kind of unclear what will the human role in any video production be? Will it be writing? Will it be acting? Someone's likeness, their voice? Will there be anywhere humans are part of the process?
I think storyboarding will. I mean, I think the script might hold on the longest, or like ensuring coherence across the script. I think that's where I'm at.
James and I have been making a game, and definitely today, the script is the thing that is the hardest to get the AI to do a good job on. Like, we're doing an opening cinematic scene for our game, and James and our content team have devoted weeks and weeks and weeks to iterating on this script and reshooting the script and everything. So it does feel like the current thing that's not good, but if you throw the script into Claude 4 or O3 and say, hey, like clean up the script and like give me a better version of it, like it gives pretty good notes and pretty good feedback. So maybe it can't hold a coherent script across 120 pages today, but it's doing pretty well at a 6-page script right now in terms of at least like editing and understanding the narrative arc and everything. So and
does it have like payoffs and stuff later and like the sort of classic stuff?
You can ask it for payoffs. I mean,
yeah. It's kind of like you as a human have to know what you're looking for, and then it gives you good ideas for these things. But yeah, it can't do everything itself.
But I do think that's key to it. Like you're like, oh, does it have the key element of story that like there's some emotional payoff or something? You're like, oh, hand wave that away. The humans will make sure. Like that's what I'm saying. So
which is why short form video maybe.
You're saying it's like a script producer or something, or it's like the editor of the script rather than the writing.
I don't know. A year ago, it was really, really effing bad at this. And now it's like getting kind of good at it. And so you're like, I see where the curve is headed on this. I don't know. I think a year from today, it could be pretty good.
I have a prediction that within 5 years, video games will be completely AI generated at the pixel level, effectively using video generation models that are interactive, as opposed to current strategies to render in a game engine 3D environments.
Just for context, the way most games are made today is inside a game engine. You put a bunch of shapes in an environment and walls and light sources, and then you try to figure out how the light bounces off, various things and what camera the player's looking out of and such. You're saying the future is we're basically just going to take VO3, but like it generates the whole environment in real time all the time. And so instead of watching a little 8-second clip of something funny, you can walk around the world that VO3 has generated for you, and it'll all just change as you're walking around.
And people are doing this with Minecraft already, right?
I mean, I've seen weird demos of it, but it doesn't seem real yet.
Yeah, they're doing demos where there's Minecraft levels being generated in front of you as you walk around.
If there's anything we know about demos, that every tech demo that has ever been given has turned into a real product that someone can deliver. I don't think it'll replace everything. I think this is the classic, like, all or nothing false dichotomy. I mean, I think it'll be interesting. It doesn't seem like the Switch just came out. First of all, like, Nintendo is like building games on like 5 generations old technology. It seems like it's not even like OLED on the device. So I just think you're like overestimating how quickly an industry that's not AI will come for it. Like I think new companies fundamentally and new studios will have to create these games, and they will have to disrupt the existing studios. I don't think the existing studios will necessarily embrace it quickly, and the existing studios have IP, and so it's going to be a slow transition.
5 years is really fast for this kind of thing, to Eric's point, just from like a business model and technology perspective. I also just think that I've seen all those demos that you've seen of people generating Minecraft with video, and like, it's not clear to me what they're better at, right? Okay, they're more expensive, they're slower, the world looks like crap, the walls change all the time. Like, there's no other players in there. There's no game mechanics. Like, they're worse at everything, right? Okay, that doesn't mean someday they won't be better at something, but I've never like heard the pitch for why it's a better way to build a game world in.
You can do anything.
You could do anything cheaper. You can prototype everything, in seconds. You can have any game you want, right?
But you can do anything in a game engine. You can drop whatever shape you want in the game engine. You can make any character sprite. I mean, maybe it's easier and faster someday, but it's also extremely non-deterministic, right? Like, you're right. Like, hey, I want a wall there, and then sometimes the wall moves or whatever. I don't know. I believe there is a world in which they're better at some things, but I've never heard which game you would want to build in this thing, even as sort of an imaginary awesome version of it. It might come back to this like long tail argument where you can make custom worlds for every player, and somehow that's more interesting than a more structured game world that everyone lives in the same one.
I mean, Fortnite is a huge game. Even if there is one game that is made this way, that is like, it's the everything game, because it changes as you develop it,
as you go through
it, move through it. But that's a much smaller claim. There will be one super intense game where you can do this.
Or maybe there will be a whole category.
I just think if it's technically possible, it seems like it will be better than waiting, 5 years to build a new GTA or something. That it'll just be kind of laughable that you would invest in a studio to do that.
I don't fully agree, but one thing I will say is like, and this isn't games purely, but if you like think about Harry Potter, right? And they're psyching themselves up for this like series on Harry Potter, but there's so many assets. Fans have already created so much. It feels like given a little bit of AI juice, like the fans are ready just to create their preferred version of Harry Potter, and all the like fandom can fight with itself about exactly like how everybody should be portrayed. And I don't know, I think that's almost more exciting. I think this Harry Potter series is coming at the worst time. Like, this is the time where the fans are about to be empowered to really make a full-length series themselves, and I'm super excited about that type of thing. Let's dig into some actual real videos instead of just imagining the world that could be, the world that is, the insane world that is. Let's pull up some videos and get your reactions. All right, we're watching an AI video from 7 years ago. You won't believe what Obama says in this video. Wink.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources.
My first reaction was this was better than I thought it would be.
Better than I thought it would be from 2018, yeah. It had that effect of the mouth moving off to the side, because it basically was like someone cut a hole in Obama's mouth and then just like put someone else's mouth in the video.
I think that's kind of
what
what
you
you
figure
did,
out it's a voice actor, you're like, okay, that's not AI. So
the TTS voice wasn't there. I mean, it was pretty good. It comes back to our point about the monoculture versus the long tail here, which is Obama obviously very monoculture figure. It was worth the investment to cut a little hole in Obama's face and have him make silly things, because you knew that was going to go viral. Whereas in the modern era, we can now do that for anyone.
Spent a ton of money on this video.
More than you would think, probably.
All right, next.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot. Uncle Phil, come try this. Fresh pasta of Bel Air.
Why do we think that this particular Will Smith eating pasta video went so viral in 2023?
I know now it seems like who cares? I mean, this is definitely the argument for like, wow, things have really improved.
This is a horrifying and disgusting video, and I think people enjoyed sharing that. Look how terrible AI is. I feel like there might have been an element of dunking on how bad AI
in some
video
ways,
is.
it's like the badness is what's useful about it because it suggests, oh, AI is not going anywhere. All right, now we're moving on from old BuzzFeed videos and the Stable Diffusion era not too long ago to pretty recent history, Sora.
Yeah, so there's two dogs podcasting on what looks like an alpine hillside or something like that. That one looks pretty realistic. I mean, I would say like, I don't think it passes the Turing test, as it were, where I'm like, that looks like a real video. There's just enough issues with it. But, you know, it's starting to get into the era of like, oh, this kind of looks like, you know, a realistic image, I think. Whereas obviously what we saw before is nowhere close to that.
What's interesting to me also is that they had these watermarks on there, which I think now they've kind of allowed you to remove the watermark. But I think there was this fear that these things would be so real that you really need a persistent watermark on all these videos.
And now that they're more real, we care less.
Yes, that's what's surprising to me. It's just like, or we've become more comfortable with the idea that any video on the internet could be AI generated, and everyone kind of knows that, but I'm not sure that's true.
I think it's a race to the bottom. I think it's just there's enough competition in AI that these companies know that if they want to be valuable, they need to provide stuff without their label on it because somebody else is. All right, what's next?
Welcome to a non-existent car show. Let's see some opinions.
I mean, man, the acceleration is crazy. You look far, step on the pedal, and you are there.
I feel safe with him in an SUV, and it seems to be like the right type of car for him.
I think the range is only going to get better. Sorry.
We don't want to drive gas cars anymore.
Yeah, no more gas cars.
Yeah. You can see I'm kind of a misfit here, but don't tell anyone. I've just bought an electric car.
I think it's really great for families and for little babies with all the safety features that these SUVs have.
But what you're really seeing is that technology is going to be very, very important in terms of how we go forward.
It was great to come to the conference because my husband loves cars.
I think I have to buy an EV now. I love my muscle cars, but I try to stay as healthy as I can so I can make it to the next car show. Yeah.
I mean, as someone who's watched a lot of like random YouTube videos of people looking at cars, it's pretty damn good. I mean, I would say it's like trained on YouTube videos of people looking at
we
cars.
We can tell it's fake.
Yeah.
Boomers maybe can't. There are definitely some humans who get confused.
I think if you presented this to me and I didn't know it was fake, I would have to think about it for a bit.
No.
You're like, no, I would immediately know.
Certain clips. Certain clips are a little more obvious than others. So if you presented the whole video, I might start to think it's fake. But if you presented any one clip, like I think it'd be pretty hit or miss whether I know it's fake.
Sure, the stills are a little harder. It's sometimes the movement that gives it away.
I do think like something we haven't really reflected on is how Sora got announced, I think over a year ago, and like barely launched and has just been obliterated by Veo. I mean, isn't that like an interesting story that they're, you know, I think we would all argue that GPT is basically best in class or, you know, very near best in class at all times. And I feel like Sora was supposed to be the best, and Google has just come through with the steam train.
Google's
here
dominating this year.
But it's crazy. Like, I mean, I don't think any of us would have predicted a year ago, oh, Google's video model will be by far the best video model a year from today. Like, it won't even be close. It's not like it's like, oh, head to head right now.
But I was a defender of Google.
But why do we think they're so particularly good at video? Is it because they own YouTube?
YouTube, yeah. I mean, they're just like doing YouTube.
Yeah. But like everybody else stole all of the YouTube videos to train their model is what I understand from the buzz in the industry. But like, why are they still so much better at this than everyone else? It's sort of an interesting question to me. Like, does Sam not care? Does Dario not care? Or is there something else about it?
My theory would partially be that everyone's a little compute constrained and they just have different priorities, and video is not going to be OpenAI's priority. Like, they are more worried about Anthropic and coding models and competing and things like that. But I don't know, it's just a theory.
So do you think they'll maintain their advantage, Google? I mean, that would sort of be the case for that.
Yeah, I kind of think that Google will be a little bit less compute constrained and have all this YouTube data and seems to care more about this. So yeah, I think they'll maintain the advantage for the next year or more.
All right, one more.
Kangaroo at the airport. All right, let's
I actually haven't seen it. All right, we're going to watch. I've never seen this before. This is sort of an infamous one, the kangaroo in the airport. I mean, the kangaroo is high quality, but maybe, as human beings, I'm not as good at the animal, but the lips on one of the women, you can sort of tell, but it's getting very picky.
Well, there's a couple of things I noticed. There's this very good kind of comedic zoom in effect, right? Mm-hmm. And that was probably prompted, which is pretty interesting. And then I don't even know if this is a real language. I don't think it is. Is that, do you guys know?
The audio is weird.
Yeah, that part was strange.
Did they prompt it to create a fake language also?
I feel like this fits into, or is it Max's theory that just like this is the end of culture sort of thing? It's like just the cinematic language. It's like the zoom in is just like whatever.
Office.
It's like exactly it's the office.
Exactly like the office.
And so it's just like, okay, whatever video
like
language
mugging.
we had up until now, we're just gonna like roll with it.
Other than me knowing that kangaroos are very unlikely to be in the airport, I would easily be fooled. I mean, and the language piece, obviously. But like, if there was no audio, I'd be like, the only reason that doesn't seem believable to me is because I know kangaroos aren't supposed to be in airports. Like, there's nothing about the video to me that stood out.
Oh man,
as
the comments. Yeah, I'm definitely getting scammed at 80.
I'm probably gonna get scammed at 40.
Like, and some of them are just, he's just sitting there all polite. I mean, the other terrifying thing about this is like, there are plenty of people who don't really care whether it's real or not, right? That's been a constant internet problem. We get obsessed with like, can they tell?
That's what I'm saying,
but there's a whole genre of fake videos where people are like, who cares if they're acting or not? It's a little nice sketch, like.
This is why I'm saying from the beginning of this podcast that people are going to be totally cool with the vast majority of their TikTok feed being fake. I mean, you guys are all like, nah, man, like it's all about the emotional connection or whatever. And I just don't believe that.
I believe you when it comes to short form video. When you're talking about like 2-hour long podcasts, I'm just a little more skeptical.
And podcasts, not to bring this to a really dark tone, but like with the protests in LA, you're seeing like the creation of almost like 2 different stories about how serious it is with images. Now, obviously, I don't think those are fake images. Some of them are images from different riots and protests and not necessarily the current one. But we've already seen this tendency that you can have a lot of influence on the internet by showing images that tell the story you want. And now, obviously, with AI, we're headed down this world where people have a strong desire to see the world they want and we'll be able to deliver it to them.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting question as to whether or not like traditional news brands, gain or lose esteem or status because like the assumption would be anything you see on whatever CNN is real, right? Now, obviously, some people would debate, whether or not they framed it correctly or whether the hosts are all biased or whatever. But like most people believe the footage they see on CNN is real, myself included.
Right. Interesting. There'll be no AI brands that are like, we don't have it. No AI.
Exactly. Like a news brand or even a movie brand, as we discussed earlier. I believe there is probably room in the market for saying nothing is ever AI that we show. We verify every clip. It's kind of like what you do with investigative journalism, where your brand is, I only write the truth, right? I will never put rumors. I will never put things I haven't verified, right? And I think that is compelling as an angle.
I know, it's exhausting. It'd be so much more fun to be one of these people who just says whatever the fuck. Like, trying to be true in a world where people can say whatever they want.
I kind of think that hardware companies like the phone companies are going to have to create new technology that says, hey, this video that you took on your phone is provably a real video and anyone can go check that it's a real video, and maybe the social networks will have some auto checking that it's a real video. But I think it almost has to go down to the hardware level to be able to prove that.
We saw an interview with Demis Hassabis who runs Google DeepMind, and then also Sergey Brin, which was interesting, where Demis said, and I didn't know this if they'd revealed this before, that there is a secret watermark in every VO3 video. So they can tell every video that's fake. He sort of alluded to that there was a collusion scheme that the major players all have watermarks in their videos and they all know each other's watermarks, kind of, that so they know what a Sora video looks like, or they know what a, whomever. And that was very interesting, because it would make me wonder if you have like a DeepMind situation where someone decides to like be the only AI video company that doesn't put a watermark in their video,
Right. Well, XAI would be the class.
Yeah, they're the only ones who can get through the filters. And so everything on YouTube is real, but then there's this sort of like vector attack from, XAI or DeepMind or whatever to upload a bunch of. Yeah. Anyway, it was just kind of interesting. I didn't realize that they were so serious about that.
I mean, I think a recurring theme, I've been optimistic that ChatGPT and other models are going to bring culture into more of a shared reality, because instead of going to a bunch of different links, you have a model that's trying to get a vision of reality, and it's at least delivering one reality. And if the model gets it wrong, maybe all of society is misled, but at least we are getting back to a shared culture. I feel like this video experiment feels sort of the opposite. I mean, I think partially because it's going to be narrowly tailored. I don't know. It feels like I worry about video being a path to manipulate the culture in a way that I feel like the text models, I feel more optimistic about them informing the culture.
I agree with you, but maybe with a slightly different angle, which is that I think fundamentally video is like by far the most effective way to convey information to people, right? I mean, I think that like people take in the whole, picture's worth 1,000 words, maybe a video's worth 10,000 words or whatever. Like,
right. I guess that's why it's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They take in the information from video at such a higher bandwidth level than they do from books, that I think that it's a really, really powerful communication and teaching medium. And so in some sense, like, everything that's on video. Medium. Yeah, and propaganda. Everything that's on video is just supercharged in terms of its ability to influence people and seem like it's reality, right? So I sort of think that, the title of this episode, I think, was like the war on reality. I think the war on video reality is sort of the most important one in some ways, because it is the highest bandwidth, I think, communication medium that we have.
If it's in video, people believe it.
Well, I think your point, Eric, is that people go to ChatGPT to kind of learn about the reality of the world. They ask questions about things, they ask for advice, life advice that they're actually going to put into practice. I think, people go scroll TikTok for a different reason. It's really to just zone out, be entertained. People watch Netflix to be kind of in these fictional fantasy worlds. I just think these are very different use cases, text versus video, and I think that's what you're
text
noticing.
Is preparing you to go out into the world and sort of like live it. Whereas I feel like video, you are like living the world. You're like, oh, it's as if you were like living, and you like take what you've seen in video and you're like, that's the world. I've seen it. I don't know. It seems dangerous, but very compelling. Anyway, that's our show. Thanks for sticking around. We're getting ready for the Cerebral Valley AI Summit in London, June 25th. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, I'm still eating the spaghetti in 2025.